And the Word became flesh and lived among us, and we have seen his glory. The glory as of a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. Please be seated. In the poetic prologue of the Gospel of John that we have just heard, we move from the cosmic, in the beginning was the Word, to the particular. That Word that brought all things into being, that Word who was the light and life of all people, put on our flesh and came to live as one of us. Now, in the Greek, the words lived among us can be literally translated as he pitched his tent among us. These words, pitched his tent, are rich with Old Testament associations. When the Israelites were in the wilderness, they constructed a tent called the Tent of Meeting. This tent reminded the people that God was present with them and had made a covenant with them to dwell with them, to love them, and to be faithful to them. It was the place where God spoke to Moses and the place where the glory of God was seen. Now, in the Hebrew, the word glory literally means loaded down with riches. I love that. Loaded down with riches. God, in his glory, is loaded down with the riches of grace, truth, justice, faithfulness, and righteousness. And that glory is now visible and present to us in his Son, Jesus. John says, we have seen his glory. Yes, the Son of God, who has pitched his tent among us, is loaded down with the riches of God. And John testifies that we, those early disciples and Christians, have seen it and can bear faithful witness to it. And the Word became flesh and lived among us, and we have seen his glory. The glory is of a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. Eugene Peterson, in his paraphrase of the Bible, The Message, translates this verse this way. The Word became flesh and blood and moved into the neighborhood. We saw his glory with our own eyes, the one-of-a-kind glory, generous inside and out, true from start to finish. Can you imagine Jesus moving into your neighborhood? In my neighborhood right now, we have a house for sale across the street. Maybe that's the house Jesus would choose. He would be right across the street from me. I could ring his doorbell anytime, well, not maybe anytime I wanted, but yeah, anytime I wanted. Wouldn't that be grand? But he doesn't move just into my neighborhood, he moves into yours too. And every specific neighborhood in this city, and every specific neighborhood in all the world. And we then can say, we have seen his glory, full of grace and truth. Or as Peterson says, he is generous, inside and out, true from start to finish. As we meet him and get to know him, he gives us grace from the center of himself. He doesn't try to impress anyone or curry favor. He's not generous for what he can get, but for what he can give. And Jesus gives us grace. Generous grace, abundant grace. For all the mistakes I've made, for all my arrogance and pride, Jesus gives me forgiveness, grace, and love. Ann Peterson says, the word is true from start to finish. He is the truth. He has integrity, honesty, wholeness. He can be completely trusted. We don't need to worry that when we tell him something, the whole neighborhood will know about it. No, he listens to us, forgives us, and loves us. He brings love into the neighborhood, grace and love and compassion. He is loaded down with riches and all for us. And we who follow the way of the Word made flesh have become children of God. And thus, we embody God's word as well. We are Jesus' brothers and sisters. And as we follow him, we are able to do the work he has given us to do. Perhaps there is a particular word that names one of your gifts. Perhaps compassion, justice, generosity, hospitality, prayer, patience. Now, until these words are acted upon, they are abstractions. They have no life in them. But when we act on them, the words become flesh. Our flesh, your flesh, my flesh. Then these words live among us in all our neighborhoods, and we can see their glory. We have been given the Word made flesh, the Son of God, to love us and show us the way. He works in us and through us to love and care for all those who are lost and in pain. In this year ahead, we can be the light and love of God to those who are hurting, those who are lonely, those who have lost hope. Think about it. What word can you bring to life in your neighborhood? Amen.